Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
This week's Torah portion, Tazria Metzora, is about skin afflictions. In the past, this was the Torah portion that people didn't really want to speak about too much. The topic of contagious skin afflictions made a lot of people really uncomfortable. And even the rabbis of old worked hard to make this topic more relatable, noting the relationship between the word for a leper, mitzora, and the act of gossip, motzi shemra. The rabbis warned of gossip as a contagious evil that once spread could not be contained. But now, we look at the text of the Torah anew. So here's a little snippet from this week's Torah portion, which sounds so different to me in these days of COVID. When a person has on the skin of their body a swelling, a rash, or a discoloration, and it develops into a scaly affliction on the skin of their body, it shall be reported to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons, the priests, and the priest shall isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest shall examine them, and if the affliction has remained unchanged in color and the disease has not spread on the skin, the priest shall isolate them for another 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest shall examine them again. And if the affliction has faded and not spread on the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is a rash. They shall wash their clothes, and they shall be clean. As for the person with the leprous affliction, their clothes shall be rent, their head shall be left bare, and they shall cover their upper lip, and they shall call out, unclean, unclean. So as an aside, the 13th century Rabbi Jacob ben Asher suggests that the Torah's instruction for the person to cover their lip, cover over their upper lip, refers to wearing a mask to cover their mouth, to avoid infecting others with their breath, showing a very early insight into the way airborne illnesses are transmitted. The Torah continues, "They shall be unclean as long as the disease is on them. Being unclean, they shall dwell apart. Their dwelling shall be outside of the camp." Isn't it eerie how much this passage echoes our current situation? And what's more, the quest to understand why people became afflicted with skin diseases seems very much in line with what we've heard throughout this past year. The ancient rabbis would look for moral reasons behind the affliction. We too were searching for some kind of rational causality in the face of what we didn't understand at first. When we look at headlines from this past year, we find articles with titles such as, "You are garbage," "Anti-masker protester verbally attacks Fresno official," and more recently, "Anti-vaccine activists peddle theories that COVID shots are deadly, undermining vaccination." And perhaps my personal favorite, "How to handle working for an anti-masker in an anti-mask community." Don't. Over this time, we have seen a lot of finger-pointing in answering the question of what to do in the face of contagion. And the ancients were wrestling with issues around this as well. We see them making categories of who is inside or outside of danger, and we do the same, applying ethical and moral assignments to the ways that people act. Who is acting safely? Who is acting unsafely? Who is wrong and who is right? And in the end, this is a very primal reaction. In the face of uncertainty, how can we gain a sense of control? As much as possible, we have acted in response to scientific findings, but at the same time, we were doing other things that had no basis in science. We were hoarding toilet paper, buying up all of the meat, yeast, flour, even those of us who never baked a thing, yeast and flour, and canned goods in the supermarkets. And this was really about acting out of fear. And in fear and in anguish, we threw up our hands and asked the questions, why is this happening? Why? Why did our friend, our loved one, our families get sick? And perhaps we may have pointed fingers of blame whenever we could to avoid the deeply unsettling truth that we live in an unpredictable world where bad things can and do happen, and can happen suddenly without warning, changing the very ways in which we live our lives. Because admitting this feels vulnerable, like blades of grass gently swaying in a breeze, unprotected against the unpredictable storms of life. So what do? How do we maintain equanimity, a sense of well-being, of wholeness, when we can be broken so quickly? How do we make sense of it? It reminds me of a story I read about a young child who is stung by hornets on a playground on a summer morning. It's her first sting, and she takes it personally, asking, why was I stung? What did I do? Her mind requires the why. She is not at peace with her vast unknowing, and she is only momentarily satisfied when she is told, you were stung by bees because you were on the play structure at exactly the same time as them. She asks more questions. Were the bees mean? Are bees bad? Are they supposed to sting us? Why was I stung? The girl is trapped. And so are we, with our questions of why. But a much better question is, what will we do now? Now that we know we can be stung by a bee at any moment, how will we live? We are vulnerable in a world that is broken, tender, unpredictable, and yet glorious. So how should we live? We try to be good. We try to move towards being good. And we try to care for one another. Life is a story of resiliency. Have any of you seen the movie, My Octopus Friend? It's about a man who develops a deep feeling of kinship for an octopus. At one point in the movie, a dramatic turn happens and a shark comes and eats one of the octopus's tentacles right off her body. The man humanizing the octopus thinks she will be scarred and depressed forever. But what he finds instead is that she grows back a tiny arm that moves, and she moves through the ocean once again. This is a teaching for life. We need to find ways to move once again, to not be afraid to swim forward past trauma into the wide, beautiful ocean, even though it is wild, even though we cannot control it. As we make our way back into community, may we move past fear, find ways to care for one another, and journey forth with strength and blessing. Shabbat Shalom.